on set.
Quite on set.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of IncCast. We're live here at Fanboys Incorporated headquarters in upstate chilly New York. On this week's episode, coming off of Fanboys Inc.'s 2014 award show, we're going to be talking about some maybe not so marvelous news about the Secret Wars event coming in spring of 2015. Talk about some Oscar nominations, obviously toys, comics, all your nerd culture fun. And to do that, I am joined by a special co-host. It is not Joe Nubb this week. Who knows where he is? He might be still recuperating from his hangover from the award show that last week. If you haven't listened to that, go over to FanboysInc.com and click on the IncCast tab and check out who won Best 2014. Who got the DW for awesome categories: Best Hero, Best Comic, Best Movie, Best Pop Culture Reality TV Show, and more. But like I said, I am joined by a special co-host, the man who makes indie comics mainstream, the man who is in indie comics, who is indie comics, who is indie, Mr. Independent Jones, Mr. Mike Sains. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. That's the greatest intro I've ever had. He makes independent comics mainstream. I'm going to get that tattooed on my chest.
Some people might not like that comment. Who knows?
yeah. There's going to be, I'm going to upset someone no matter what.
I'm sure. But before we get into this week's topics, last week, huge event for us here personally, the third annual Fanboys Inc.'s award show 2014, the best of 2014. What would you think of the show? You were one of the presenters and guests.
I had a great time coming on. It was a lot of fun to be able to just talk nonstop about independent comics for 25 straight minutes.
Yes, we gave you 25 minutes of non-mainstream Big Two talk.
Wow, that felt good. And it was really cool hearing everybody from the network come together into one place. Phil, I finally started listening to Random Shit, Random Guy. Phil's a great dude.
Nice.
I think we might have had a couple interactions on Facebook now, finally. We got Josh together for the first time. It's like an infinite crossover reunion of sorts.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Comic Head and Chris 51. That was cool as shit, dude. You guys, it was a little tight at first, and then it was a long show, so everybody loosened up after a while.
Well, there were some drinks flying.
It's the Golden Globes atmosphere.
Yeah, for some of us. But yeah, it was a little tight at first. It was a little nerve-wracking to give some of our listeners more of a background, some behind the glitz and glam of the show. It's kind of stressful.
It can be.
If you out there, other podcasters listening, you understand it. If you're the producer of the show, you usually, some of the bigger operations have a sound engineer and a board operator. Well, I am that. I am the producer. I am the man who monitors the recording, the Skype phone calls. I have to monitor Joe once in a while as well, and still co-host. So I'm the one-man show here. But
you are a Renaissance man.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, it was difficult. But I got to say, it went very smoothly. I was very happy with the outcome and the fan response. But
a lot of interesting winners that night.
Yeah, I gotta say, this year's we changed the nominations a little bit, the categories. We merged a little bit of independent with mainstream and comics. One, I wanted to do that just to see, as we've been talking throughout 2014. Obviously, if you've listened to Mike Sains before, he is the independent man. And has gotten me to go over more into some of the Image titles. I'm reading 3 Image titles a month now. And I figured, we still have a discussion on what is truly indie and what isn't. And I think that's going to be a topic either for IncCast or Infinite Crossover, or we may merge the two and do a 2-parter on this, as we all kind of feel differently about what is really what is mainstream, what classifies you as indie. So putting this group together, as far as I was concerned, I put in indie comics and mainstream. They based on sales for me alone, and we're not going to get into too many details as far as the classification. I felt that it was appropriate, and it showed that this possibly 2014 going into 2015 is the year of the indie. We had a triple crown threat right off the bat. Walking Dead took away Best Writer, Best Comic Book Series, and Best Comic Book Related TV Show. First time in our history as far as the award show. Granted, we're only an infant. We're only 3 years old doing this, but it was interesting to see that outcome. I was shocked. I really thought that CW's TV shows, The Arrow, The Flash, would have really gotten more stream or more strength in votes. Don't get me wrong, they got a ton of votes. But I was shocked to see that the Walking Dead fans, they're true and hardcore. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and not just that. When weighing the 2 or the 3 options, like, okay, Flash and Arrow against The Walking Dead, they're consistently good. Flash is fantastic, and it's made one heck of a debut. But I will say, the first premiere episode of The Walking Dead's latest season was so freaking good that it was just like, okay, this show is on a whole different trajectory now, and there's no more talk about, like, should we kill people? What's this and what's that? Rick isn't a philosopher anymore. He's just like, he's got his AK, he's got his knife,
Yep.
and he is killing people. And we're finally getting into the nitty-gritty of the Walking Dead canon, because if anyone in the Walking Dead community has seen the teasers, they're totally setting up the future in their poster images for the city of Alexandria and the events that take place, for the majority, the largest chunk anyway, of The Walking Dead. And I am so excited to see how that translates to the TV.
It seems that the Rick TV character is becoming more associated to Rick, the comic book character, now, in a way.
They're trying, I think, as best as they can. There was a lot of hiccups in the first 2-3 seasons. Whether or not they were going to make it anything like, Angela and a lot of the characters who are still around on the show, or rather, vice versa, things were different. But now they're getting to a point where they can sort of be like, okay, yeah, all that stuff is different, but now we're going to get it on the same trajectory as the book, so the fans don't have this little squabble anymore.
Right.
It makes sense, too, because, people are starting to buy the books and realize, hey, this is not like the show.
No, totally. And we'll probably see in Negan, and that's one of the biggest badasses in The Walking Dead as far as as far as the series is concerned. Like I said on the show, and I've said on previous pods past, I don't read the comics. I kind of want to keep really the mystique. Now, people are like, well, not everything happens. I understand that, but I enjoy the show so much. Sometimes I don't want to get ahead and possibly be putting more theories going, oh, is this going to show up in the show? Is this going to do this? I'm going to wait maybe another full season, and then I'll buy the compendiums and I'll start back from issue 1 of The Walking Dead. And by that time, they'll be enough ahead where I don't think I'll be able to be catching up and getting past the episode. So I'm intrigued by far. I'm not really a horror fan per se. I'm getting into that genre a little bit more now. I mean, I like my campy horror TV shows, or, the campy 80s movies. I was just watching, side note, I was just doing some design work last night, and Netflix pull up the Munsters. I mean, come on, who doesn't love the Munsters? So, I'm getting back into some of that stuff, and I'll probably start rewatching some of the Freddys and some of the Jasons. I'm not a big fan on the gore end of aspect, not the Rob Zombie-esque type movies. I'm not big on that.
Well, if a true horror fan were really to talk about Rob Zombie, they wouldn't have kind things to say either.
Yeah, probably not. But also a couple other weird winners in our vote. I shouldn't say weird, just unexpected. All New Ghost Rider wins for best new series. Now, it was up against Outcast. It was up against some really big books. I mean, Moon Knight was almost tied for first place, which was
awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's great. Like you said, though, some really interesting winners. If people aren't aware, it's picked by you guys, the fans. The fans pick. There's no rigging here, even though some people might have thought because I'm the only supporter on the network of the All New Ghost Rider and Moon Knight that I might have rigged that. But no, this is totally all you guys. You pick them, and we announce them. The big upset for the evening. Obviously, you would think maybe it was the movie category, but that wasn't an upset. That was I think before I even decided to write up that category, I knew who was going to win that one, and that was Guardians of the Galaxy. No brainer, biggest domestic pull in the United States for 2014. close to Transformers 4 as far as overall. Transformers 4, domestic and international, is the biggest grossing movie for 2014. But Guardians of the Galaxy, one of the movies, it was the what do you want to call it? The underdog. Nobody expected it to blow up as big as it did.
I'd say it's like your X Factor, your dark horse, the thing nobody saw coming, and they didn't really know they would like it until it was right in front of them. And let's talk, like, Guardians of the Galaxy is a popular movie, but in terms of pop culture, it's a behemoth. The fourth largest selling album of 2014 is the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. And the super awesome mixtape Volume 1 in tape form that was released in Record Store Day 2014 is one of the highest priced cassette tapes in recent history. It's highly sought after, and the Mondo print soundtrack for Guardians of the Galaxy that's coming out later this quarter, hand-drawn poster prints inside each one of them. And those records, they're probably going to be worth $500, $600 the second they hit your door. It's insane how popular Guardians of the Galaxy became, because personally, I thought Captain America the Winter Soldier would win in terms of just straight action movie chops, because that's a thrilling movie, and it totally devastates the Marvel Cinematic Universe's canon and resets everything with S.H.I.E.L.D. But Guardians was so it's a talking tree with a raccoon on top of it, and people are running around like it's like if Han Solo was the one guy Star Wars cared about.
Yeah, right.
Who saw any of it coming other than like people who said, oh, James Gunn is directing a really quirky movie? Well, he directs quirky movies. That seems like a good fit. And then the cast came out. John C. Reilly, Glenn Close is in there. Some real high caliber actors doing like Marvel jargon.
Marvel is definitely going for the classic thespians by far, putting them in their movies. Now,
Ben Kingsley and Iron Man?
Do you think it was not necessarily because of their acting chops, but the fact of trying to pull in more of a viewership and maybe validating a Marvel movie? It's not a funny book movie. This is real movies.
Sure. I think there's that. There's also the fact that without even trying, it reaches a wider audience because there is a talking raccoon, even if he's the one character who think it's hilarious to steal prosthetic legs and eyes.
That was one of the best moments, I think, in the movie. That was pretty funny.
One of the most subversive creative wins in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is James Gunn getting Rocket Raccoon to be such a perverse character. I mean, he really is a psychopath with a giant bodyguard. And people love him.
By far. I mean, he's not that cuddly little animal, for little kids. He's definitely not. He's the gun-toting, spitting little man. But I think out of all the movies, if we could do a true spin-off, I think that could be successful with Rocket and Groot. The comedic level and getting some maybe background. I mean, Rocket, isn't just a Guardians of the Galaxy as far as a team. He's all over the place. A little bounty hunter. I mean, you could do some really neat cameos and introduce some other galactic characters, I think, in that story. I think it would go over well. I doubt they would ever do that, but if we're doing spinoffs, because I'm not a big fan of total spinoffs, like I'm not a fan of Star Wars doing solo movies with Boba Fett and Yoda. I'm not sure if I'd like that, but I would go see a Rocket and Groot movie.
I 100% agree with you. And if anyone needs, what would they base it on? Is there enough back information for Rocket? Go out and pick up Scotty Young's Rocket Raccoon from issue number 1. They're currently at number 7. It just came out today. I'm holding it in my hand. It's the first book in the entire series where Scotty Young kind of let go of the art and focused more on the story. But the person who subbed for him, Felipe Andrade, I hope I'm saying his name right, he replaced Scotty Young on the art, and it's damn near identical. It was just like when Duncan Fegredo took over for Mike Mignola in Hellboy. I mean, it's almost seamless in the level of similarity, but it really lets the story get totally off the walls. It's like kind of Rocket Raccoon on Hoth, but it's not Hoth. It's something with sort of frost giants, but they're not frost giants. And Groot might actually be dying for the first time ever, I think. And it's a really fantastic story where Rocket has to like take the lead. And it's a simple setup too. How would Rocket get his own movie? Just easy. They like stop hanging out for 2 days and some craziness happens.
Well, they could, you know, yeah, they could do a flashbacks before he ever met the Guardians. They could do so much. I mean, plus, you know, he's genetically altered. So getting maybe some of that background, maybe like a Wolverine's origin Weapon X storyline going on and how they altered him in some fashion. I think that'd be great.
I think, it would be super cool. And you really can play with the idea, like we've set up that he's the only one. And I think that is a great thing to boast for about 2 movies. And then an even smarter thing would be to yank that idea right under the rug and go, oh, you thought you were the only one? No, that's something we put in your brain, Rocket. There's others like you. What? There's others like me. You know, like,
I'm not a raccoon.
That could open this whole other dimension of storytelling for that one character alone, and Groot could be there the whole time. Yeah, great idea, Mike. I should work for Marvel.
Yeah, right. But like we started as we get on a little tangent here, the big upset that evening.
And crowned king of 2014, if you ask me.
Yeah, by far. Big upset was the reality TV shows. Now we all can sit here and scoff at reality TV as they're not reality per se, and we've seen it all the way back from MTV's Real World, which really got the ball rolling to what we see today. But it was a huge upset, and I love our past winners. They're great. They're friends of the family, obviously. They're one of the reasons why we started this network. They influenced us quite a bit. And they were past winners. And that was the Comic Book Men, winners for the last 2 years by a landslide for other reality TV shows out there. This year, a little different. Epic Inc. from A&E's hit TV show, or I should say A&E's hit TV show, Epic Inc., with Chris 51 and Josh Bodwell, friends of the family now, and obviously the rest of the crew. The guys are awesome. They won by a huge landslide this year, by 1,000 votes over by anything else. And as we had Chris 51 on and talking, I mentioned to him, this kind of validates, not that if Comic Book Men did win again, it didn't validate, but this merging of this particular these two cultures, tattoos, pop culture art, and comic books merging together is just another validation of the geek renaissance that we've been saying for 2014. Huge step forward on that kind of stuff. It's a fun show. For me, obviously, everybody who knows, or if you don't know, I mean, I have a tattoo, I have a sleeve, I have another one on my other arm, and it's addicting. Some of them were comic book influence. The sleeve that I have is Geiger-esque of my own original artwork. But seeing this show, there's no competition, there's no bitching, there's no arguing. It was refreshing, and it's great. I think a proper, what do I want to say? Proper way of exposing our culture. It's fun. It's awesome. And you see a shop doing just pop culture icon tattoos, whether it be Star Wars, which Josh Bodwell is a huge Star Wars fan. I think they're all Star Wars fans there, to iconic pinups, to comic book characters, to cartoons. It was just fun, and it was just appropriate for them winning. And once again, I have to say congratulations to everybody that was involved in putting the show together. In A&E, if you're listening, get off your asses. Let's get season 2 rolling, because I want to see what happens with season 2.
Do it. Yeah, and I think I'm planning on getting a Hellboy tattoo this year. There's no doubt in my mind. I think a lot of people, they've always wanted to get a tattoo, and a lot of times it's X-Men. X-Men first came out, the movies, the Bryan Singer films. There was a huge resurgence of Wolverine-related tattoos that I was seeing, and just 90s era X-Men. They just look awesome. Those old, like, totally exaggerated character designs. There's something about how off the wall exaggerated those are. It's just like classic, and they just make for good ink. And any fan of any genre of comic books, there is at least 5 or 10 artists. It's like, oh, well, then you should probably consider getting this artist ink. And I think that's something that they should really start setting up, not just for, any one particular shop, but just system wide, being able to scout a fan, and like the same way if someone walks in and goes, yeah, I want to get like some Japanese kanji or a samurai, they'd be like, oh, well, then you'd be interested in this style. If we can get it to a point with like that with comic books and tattoo shops and in just stores in general, that's when we've truly taken over, and it is truly ubiquitous, like a household thing to be familiar with comic books and comic book related pop culture.
Well, I agree. You know, as Chris was saying too, it's been going on for a while. I've seen you, if you just follow any tattoo pages or just through the artwork like I have, it's been going on for years, but now it's just so more into the general public eye and appropriate, I guess. I mean, you know, back in the day, if you had a tattoo, you were scoffed at.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, ooh,
Yes.
what are you? You know, are you, you know, I've heard this before. People with tattoos are dirtbags. I mean, I'll say it right now, you know, or the scum of the earth. And it's listen, every culture, we can go back to Pat Broderick talking about cosplayers. I mean, it all comes around. You can't put everybody in the whole group. You just can't do that. But
yeah, it's unfortunate. I have my own stories, you know, like I had a tattoo before I was 18. So when I was in high school, people thought I was in an Asian gang. It's like, no, you're fucking being ridiculous. The principals were like, oh, are those gang tattoos? Like, oh yeah, that's super racist. You guys, we can all acknowledge that. Like, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean I'm a criminal. But we've moved on. That was almost 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, times have changed. Things are very different. Everyone has tattoos, and it's almost getting commonplace where you can have a regular job and have tattoos below your forearm now, and it's not even like a thing. As long as it's not like on your neck or on your face. Like, even those are becoming more acceptable even though. Point. People who are shocked by tattoos, those are going to be the weird ones. Because I'm covered in them as well. And personally, it's like you got to have a couple.
well, that's why we're gonna get Joe Nubb a tattoo, because he's tattoo free. But
that's just weird. That's just weird.
But anyway, so yeah, once again, you know, awesome. I don't even want to say it's an upset. I hate saying that, I guess, because everybody who's nominated is a winner. I mean, Comic Book Man is still doing great. They're going into season 4B coming in February. I want to say February 7th. So yeah, and they're friends. They know each other. So it's really, and that's another cool thing. As big as the community is, it seems so tight knit. And I think we've approached that even at cons. I mean, it's a small group, as big as Baltimore Comic Con when you and I finally got together and meeting up with the guys from Nerd Church Podcast. Check them out too. It's a nice little home. It's really cool. I mean, obviously you have your own little cliques, maybe a little groups within the group, but it's home, and I love it. I think it's great. Our culture is a big family. Everybody stands up for each other, you know, and helping each other out, and I think that's awesome. So, you know, once again, congratulations to A&E's Epic Inc. for winning Best Reality Comic Book Pop Culture Reality TV Show. Let's get into today's topics, Mr. Sains.
Fantastic.
Yesterday, news broke around 3 o'clock. And if you haven't yet, you can go check out the video live stream. It's been replayed over on FanboysInc's.com. Marvel has been hinting this for the last few months. What do I want to say? Announcements to end all announcements. Blah, blah, blah. That's exactly how I'm going to say it, because Marvel's great at their marketing. Awesome. Get you all psyched up. Awesome. Age of Ultron limited, event, 12-issue series. Awesome. Let down. Yesterday, they announced their Secret Wars information. Is the big event for 2015 starting in spring, going pretty much company-wide to end the Marvel universe as we know now. Or is it before now? Well, is it Marvel? Is it Marvel now? Is it Marvel new now? It was lackluster. It was really, for me personally, I know others are out there. I've been on a couple threads on Facebook that are really excited about it. For me, it was meh. Okay, great. You're doing a huge event, crossover event, bringing all the characters in at once, then coming out of this as the battle world, as they call it, into one universe. The exact opposite of what DC is doing over in their Convergence, pretty much bringing one or two Earths and now bringing out the multiversity. Thank you, Mr. Grant Morrison. I'm not sure if I like this. I feel that it's a cheap cash grab. I mean, obviously, every event is a cash grab. I mean, you have to make money. You're a corporation, but I don't know. I just see it as cheap stories. The initial response for me, seeing that the characters are going to come out new and never before seen in the Marvel universe. Why do I want to see that? Why change a good thing? I mean, for me, it's like I'd rather have writing a new event. That's great. You want to keep things fresh, but is that easy writing? Why can't we just do really great stories with the characters we have? Go ahead, Mike. What do you think of that so far?
I honestly do not think, like, okay, if we're looking at Marvel and DC on the current timeline in real time, it is the opposite of what DC's doing. But in reality, if you ask me, if you pull it back a little bit further than just what's happening exactly right now, Marvel is essentially just doing an Infinity Crisis. They are just taking the time and pulling it in on itself until it becomes a 0-point sum, and then whatever happens after that little convergence and that singularity is what's going to be official canon once the time brings itself back together again. And if that doesn't sound like some shit DC did in the 80s, then I haven't been reading comics since I was 8 years old. It really is the exact same model, and it's one of these things where it's like, oh, it's not Superman. No, that is his name is Hyperion. Oh, that's not Superman. That's Sentry. It's like, that's not Deadpool. It's Deadshot or whatever. You take your analog picks, Marvel and DC, like one-for-one exact copy characters. This is just a one-for-one exact copy storyline. It's the exact thing we've seen before, where like all these, like Spider-Verse, the thing that Dan Slott has going on now, and the all-new X-Men over here with Bendis and Stuart Immonen and what they've been working on over the past 2.5 years. The way that Marvel has decided to cure all those things and the ultimate universe is to have everything collide in on itself, and everybody's going to mix up, and it's basically just a ultimate and 616 crossover until it's over, and then once it's over, it's the Infinity event. It's time collapsing in on itself. So why are y'all acting like, and when I'm saying y'all, I mean Marvel, why would they try to act like this is brand new when it's really, it's just brand new for a new generation. It's just something no one, and like, I guess you could say 12 and younger have never seen before.
Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I just don't know. I think what they're trying to do is reset it for a generation under the one that they've currently got their hooks in.
Maybe. If you're not aware of what happened with the news, let me give you a quick little recap, just so what was said yesterday. This huge development has been in the works for some time in Jonathan Hickman's years-long Avengers saga. The heroes have been trying to stop a series of universe-ending incursions where two universes collide with one another. The inciting incident to May's 8-part Secret Wars event will be when the heroes fail to stop the regular and ultimate universes from crashing together. The resulting in Battle World will be Marvel will be ongoing forward after that. This is putting an end cap to decades of stories and starting a new era. When you see the scope of the event, you will see what we're willing to do. This is a place where we're going to be bringing new pieces onto the board and taking old pieces off. You guys will be yelling and screaming, loving, hating in equal measure. I don't know. It also says here, it was clarified that Battle World will be the Marvel Universe during, through, and after Secret Wars. None of this is an Elseworlds, What If, or any other kind of alternate reality. It will be a setting for continually stories that will count going forward. Okay, I kind of get it to a point, but I don't know. It just seems... I mean, I can understand the Ultimate Universe. It's not been doing well. They've been trying to get rid of it. They got rid of it when Galactus came in and ate the universe and whatever, basically. And then it came out with 3 new books, Miles leading the charge. Now, Miles, as far as I'm concerned, is probably, and I bet you Mr. Philip Broyles can say the same, is probably one of the most popular characters to come out of that universe. He's now in the 616 universe. If you're not aware, you can go over to All New X-Men right now. Actually, in this month's issue, he's still going with the X-Men over there. So he's over in this universe, obviously with Spider-Verse. He's also within that universe, and sometimes he's in the 616, sometimes he's in a different universe as they're battling the Inheritors. But do you need a huge event just to kill a universe that didn't sell that well anyway? I mean, they've done it before. Well, okay, the book's done. We're going to renumber and do something different, or we'll do a mini series or a mini story arc in one book. Let's say Spider-Man to bring Miles over. I don't understand it. Would they still be doing this if DC wasn't doing their convergence? I guess that's another question.
It's one of those 1-for-1 things. Like, okay, you guys gonna do this big event while you move from New York to Burbank? Okay, well, screw you guys. We're gonna do our giant thing where, you know, we've been looking to retcon the universe that we can't do anything with. So yeah, Ultimate's getting scrapped at the same time as the DC event, just so happens. And yeah, none of it's an accident. None of it is an accident.
Yeah, no.
It's straight up competition, and it really is. I guess you could call it a swan song for the Ultimate Universe, and whoever makes it over, or even whose canon makes it over, because I think that's a lot of what's going to end up happening. Like, a lot of the continuity that's been hard to continue in the 616 that might be more easily resolved because it resembles the choices they've made in the films and the Ultimate Universe, for example. They're going to keep those, and and vice versa. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a way of aligning their cinematic universe with their comic book universe, even though they swear up and down that's not what they're doing.
They just put out an article yesterday after that's not going to happen.
I can't, for the life of me, bring myself to believe them, because I saw the same article and I don't believe them. I just don't, because that is the logical end to make it seem, because they're already sort of doing it. They've already kind of done that. Because, all right, I'll just put it like this. If Black Nick Fury is the guy running S.H.I.E.L.D., then I was right at the end. Because if we're joining 616 and Ultimate's dying, then it's going to be, you know, David Hasselhoff eye patch wearing Nick Fury again. Because, you know, that's how everyone came up with. The guy with the J. Jonah Jameson sideburns and the cigar in his mouth and the tight leotard and the utility belt. That's what I'm used to. And that's what we should get. And that means Samuel, like, that's, like, what happens to Samuel L. Jackson? Does Nick Fury get replaced in the films too?
Yeah, right? I don't know.
It's weird. It's weird. Like, there's a lot of things to consider, and I just can't see Marvel going too much further away from their gigantic cinematic bankroll. I mean, it's like, what, $1 trillion industry now?
Yeah, who knows? I agree. I hope they don't. I really hope they don't do that, because it's gonna be nuts. I don't know. I just feel that. I mean, I guess once they come out, like, I know it's gonna be a ton of tie-ins and crossovers. It's through the whole universe, so that's going to be a huge cash grab. You're going to have to buy this, you got to buy that. I'll stick with the main. I mean, I have to at least stick with the main to see what happens, but I'm not going to buying all these other tie-ins and BS that's going on with that.
Well, I do think that I have confidence in the creators that have been setting up this convergence. I'm not trying to confuse anyone. That is an actual word people use in sentences, not just a DC event. But yeah, this particular creative team, like Hickman in the Avengers, he's been working at some really big stuff with the creators of the entire system of the universe, and there's all these outposts, and time is like folding in on itself and stuff. And I mean, they've been setting this up since Avengers 1 in 2012, I think. And this is all kind of now coming to this massive head. And at least the people who are running the events are competent and interesting writers, doing interesting stuff on their own, even if this is sort of, we've seen this before, maybe it's got a skeptical. The one thing that I can truly hope for is that those artists take some real risks and actually making maybe some people die, or so there's some devastating sequences that we can actually think of fondly the same way that we do like storylines that have then turned into films like Days of Future Past. We haven't had an event quality wise worth holding on to that's like, oh, this could totally be a movie in years, man. Like, I'm talking before House of M and Civil War and all that stuff. Like, I can't think of one where it's like, this has to be a movie. Civil War is getting made because Mark Miller knows how to pitch a movie, and his stuff is very cinematic.
Oh, Millar is like the movie genius right now. What is
he's
he?
Like,
he's got one out now, or one coming out now, and two in the works, and then
yeah. It's a genius. And his stuff just genuinely has marketability from a cinematic aspect. So I think Marvel truly lucked out with Civil War, because I'm not so sure they needed to rush into the Civil War and, you know, the third phase of their films. It seems kind of sudden, if you ask me. But I digress. I think this thing is basically just a giant troublemaker until I can see how the carpet shakes out. Because, yeah, I'm a lot like you. Like, I have no freaking clue how this is all going to play out, dude.
Now, we could be totally wrong. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Remender drawing it out. I've always said, like, he's the Stephen King of comic books. You got to read 5 issues before you can get in the meat of the story. We'll see. I mean, I'll be honest. I'll be the first one to say I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm wrong. I should say I'll be happy if I was wrong. I mean, one, we're all going to get great stories out of it. 2, I mean, okay, then we were wrong, and they're actually going to give us some fresh stories after this happens. I mean, I don't know. It's just difficult. I don't like major change. I really don't like huge amounts of change. Why do you always have to change it? Right when I get into something, oh, okay, now you're going to change it. Why?
It seems like everything's on a 3-year cycle with comic books. It's not like, even if we were to have been constant readers for the last 15 years, it's pretty much a cyclical thing where it's these event, and then a larger event that kind of like sucks all the things they've written back into the center of the timeline and then spits it back out, and like a new big bang for the Marvel universe.
Right.
And you can almost put it on a timeline and look at it that way. Like, both comic book publishers, not just Marvel, DC too, they do the same exact things, and it's almost like a passing of the torch in a way for new generations of creatives to be like, okay, now here's your turn to blow it all up. And it's like, I guess I can get on board for that, but it's like you say, I'd like some continuity, but there's nothing less sexy than reliable continuity. I mean, look at Spawn. It's over, 300 issues? Savage Dragons around that same range. People barely read those 2 books anymore, even though those are the founding books of Image Comics. They have never let up on their universes, not one time.
Nope.
And I admire the shit out of that. That takes a lot of guts to be like, what issue you guys on? 355. Oh, shit. Okay, where do I pick up? It's like, who cares? Jump in. We're not stopping, so you're going to need to figure out a jumping on point. You know, like, I really admire that level of, like, they're the rock in their publishing house. And The Walking Dead's turning out to be the same way. They're working up to what, 200 or something? Like,
yes. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's like crazy. What Marvel book has that level of numbering anymore? Is there a single book with a numbering system like close to that now?
So what, 300? No.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No.
Right?
I mean, we had Spider-Man 700, and then they killed that.
Right. Exactly. Now we're doing this giant Spider-Verse.
You know, the other thing is too, can you say, all right, we're going to renumber? No, I know it's going to come up. Well, new fans can get on with number 1 and find out what's going on. That's great, because we want new readers. I mean, obviously we don't work for Marvel, DC, Image, or anybody, but as a culture and our group, we want more people to enjoy the stories that we enjoy and get into comics. But okay, what about, excuse my language, what about us fucking guys who've been reading this for years? You keep changing shit on us. How many people are going to drop it? How many people are going to drop more Marvel titles or move it over to DC? And I can say the same thing about DC. How many people are going to be like, really? Didn't you have this problem with your multiple worlds and the continuum and trying to get all the stories straight, and now you're giving us all these universes back again? What was my post yesterday? This is going to be Image is going to get the bigger market share now because they're the ones staying consistent. I mean, this is the year. This is going to be the year of the indie if stuff like this keeps happening.
That's a great point, because you're not wrong, man. I think a lot of people are going to get frustrated, especially like Avengers 1 was a while ago now. 2012 was 3 years ago. So there are people who got on board post Avengers X-Men and were like, yes, I'm in for this, myself included. And now they're talking about, hey, all that stuff that you've bought, those long boxes that you have sitting upstairs, just burn those. Just burn them, because we're resetting the whole thing, guys. It's like, okay, so there will be detractors who go looking for stuff from other publishers, and they're gonna see that Mike Mignola hasn't let up on his Hellboy universe since 1994, 1993. They're gonna see that, you know, the McFarlane industry, that behemoth of a company, has so much reliable stuff, and Kirkman is just the same way. Invincible, any superhero fan who's never read Invincible, your mind will explode in its level of quality.
Oh, come on, man. Don't do this to me again. Come on.
Robert Kirkman's a genius. The only thing I'll say is when Walking Dead is really good, Invincible is kind of like in the 6.5, 7.5, 8 range.
Okay.
And vice versa. You can tell when he's really bearing down on one book, the other one kind of suffers. But at no point does that take away from the quality of the level of storytelling. And I think it's just like, by accident, we don't have an Invincible film franchise already. There's almost no reason for it. It's almost unforgivable, if you ask me. I mean, like, it's a total superhero franchise that Image could sell to young adults to adults. All the way, you know, like this would be the type of thing you don't want your kids to see until they're ready for it. And that's, I think, the thing we're ready for. The Dark Knight proved that.
Right.
You know, you can't show The Dark Knight to a little kid. I remember a couple people tried to do that in the audience, and the Joker made those kids cry like children, like little babies.
I got a comment here on our Facebook page, over at facebook.com/FanboysInc. Michael, I know I'm going to screw up your last name. Michael US. He's probably laughing at me right now. He says, just an FYI, I hate it when they change everything and makes it so hard for me to explain it to my son. Boom, prime example right there. You may get new listenership, but what if they're already reading some titles and all of a sudden now we're back to issue 1 and we have 10 Wolverines. Yes, there can only be one, but wasn't he dead? And now what the hell is going on?
Well,
you know, so that's another aspect that you have to look at. Could you really be alienating even new readers or younger readers at this point, because it's so convoluted, it's so crazy?
I think one of the most common things that I hear when a new comic book movie comes out is it's like almost like the way that in the beginning of a new year, a gym will see an influx of resolutioners who said they were going to lose all this weight. After like a big comic book movie comes out or The Walking Dead debuts, you see this influx of new readers who are like, yeah, I want to get in on where the movie's at. Well, the reality is the comic book and the movies don't line up. And now you have to do a little bit of homework as to what you want to read and where you want to jump in. And I think that right there, that one step, some people they're like a deer in headlights. You mean the thing I just saw on screen isn't going to match up with what's happening on the TV thing? And I think like when you start adding the layer that I saw last year, like, okay, Marvel Now, all new Marvel Now. Oh no,
that's why I said that in the intro. I was like, really? What is this?
Yeah, and it gets really confusing when it's like Hulk is still Marvel Now, but all new X-Men is all new Marvel Now. It's like, you are fucking killing me with this. What's happening?
Yeah, I totally agree.
You know, and that's I'm a 30-year-old dude. Like, try explaining that to a 7-year-old.
Well, I bet you they probably can get it better, quicker, because don't they do video games better than us too?
And that's very true. I say that I probably would get schooled by that little kid from the viral video.
But you know what though? Can we say if the movies are comparing to the comic book storylines, we can say that about every novel that has been adapted to the big screen? Can we not? So that's not something new. We can talk about Harry Potter. We can talk about Hunger Games. We can talk about Twilight if we have to. We can talk about any movie that's been adapted. Crap, Stephen King had stated years ago that he doesn't want a big screen movie production anymore because they rip his books apart so much that his readers won't enjoy it. So that's not something new, and I don't think that's something, it's new within our culture because comic book movies are something new and really taking a foothold, but that's been an ongoing issue for years, you know?
Yeah, I just think in this instance, like, because you're not wrong, like that, the book and the film are always, it's like, yeah, the book is better, read the book. That's like a tradition almost in movies and book adaptations. But with this, it's more sensitive because you're blowing up an entire continuity. I mean, like the Marvel timeline has existed since what? When did Marvel Comics start? Like we're talking about decades.
Yeah, 63 when they changed over to Timely, I believe.
So we're talking generations are now being blown up, and it has to make 100% sense. Otherwise, I do think there is going to be at least a small level of like, wait, I need you to explain this to me. Like in the comic shop, like people who work at comic shops will have to kind of explain it a little bit.
Yep. And on top of the fact, I mean, that's where we get a lot of our fanboy rage. And I used to upset me, but I go at it looking into the movie knowing it's not going to be exactly the same. And necessarily I'm more open now. Does it necessarily have to be the same? Because didn't I just read it in the 4-color pages? Yes, it would be cool to see the action on the big screen, but changing it a little bit is okay. You overchanging, don't get me wrong, I don't care for a lot of the changes. First Class, right off the bat, Fox's X-Men's First Class, those characters weren't first class. They weren't even second or third class. I mean, those characters weren't the original X-Men. So getting that, the stories changed. Now, I also know you have to change it up a little bit for the general public. Maybe they did these tests. They're not stupid to a point. You have to do market research. Maybe this character represented better with the general public and vice versa. It is what it is. I think they're doing all right. I think we'll keep getting better and better movies, and and there will be a lot of artistic creative licensing, I'm sure, where they're going to change it. Some things just don't represent well on a big screen as well as they may on the 4-color pages. The one thing that I think, and I'm sure I'm not the first to say this, Ant-Man, Marvel's Ant-Man. I think it's going to be Marvel's, and it could hinder, it won't stop, but hinder some future, the way they're going to film their properties, what characters they're going to use. Once again, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not excited to see this. I'll wait for this thing to come out on DVD.
Yeah, I'm reluctantly with you there because I think it was the first time we saw a lot of in-house rumblings during production.
From day one.
The director changed hands a lot.
Actors left. The writers left.
It was a mess. It was a mess. And the last time that happened, even close to that, was Thor: The Dark World, where the director was on and then the very last minute dropped out, and then Alan Taylor from Game of Thrones had to come in. And yeah, it was good. It has its moments. It's really good when it's an action story, but like some of this stuff is like, you can tell that there was an mid-production problems.
Right. But you know what though? Not to purposely cut you off, but I'm sure that happens on a lot of movies. We just seem to be more aware, either whether it's social media or that we're really searching it out in this particular topic because it is our culture. It's the theme that we're going in, that we're following. Also, we know that both DC, Marvel, Warner Brothers, Walt Disney sometimes don't have a tight grasp on the social media aspect, and maybe they should have tighter guidelines on what gets put out there in the internet. It just seems more in our face now. Now, this could have happened years ago. Who knows the kind of trouble we could have that Tim Burton could have had back in 1989 when he did Batman. Maybe there was a lot of problems. Maybe there wasn't. I mean, but it's now being so put in our face. We're so inundated with the media and news in feed and everything coming at us all the time, 24/7, that now it's, our dirty laundry is becoming out in the public. Like I said, I don't think Ant-Man's going to be, I don't know. I might. Hey, if any of you guys want to buy me a ticket, I'll be more than happy to join you. I'll buy the popcorn, but I'm not buying a ticket for this movie. That sounds bad. Is that bad journalism? I'm not going to watch something, but I'll report on it.
I honestly, okay, here's how I feel about where they kind of went wrong, because Paul Rudd, to me, is so far their second most likable person they've casted, like a natural fit to be a part of their family. Robert Downey Jr. was obviously going to be Tony Stark from day one.
Yep.
But Paul Rudd is such a likable dude. All his movies, even like I Love You Man, and like his kind of like off-brand movies are all funny. He's a likable, funny guy. Wanderlust. A lot of people didn't see that movie. That movie's fucking hysterical. And I would love to see just them sort of ingratiate and familiarize us, like Scott Lang, Paul Rudd, those two things being more synonymous with each other. And like by the time the movie starts, we're like, oh, I'm ready for Paul Rudd and Scott Lang. The same way it was like Chris Pratt. And like, you remember how Guardians trailer was just basically a way to familiarize us, people who don't necessarily know who Rocket and Groot are. Correct. And it was just like naming the characters, a little synopsis about them, and it was a cutesy little roster breakdown. If they did something just a little more similar to that, where it's like, give us an idea who Scott Lang is. Right. And instead of this like generic Michael Douglas speech that like could have worked for any Marvel movie, overcut with like, you know, barely finished VFX shots and stuff they have compiled from filming, like it would have been a lot more effective just to make us like the idea of Paul Rudd coming to the Marvel universe. That would have worked fine with me. I'd be talking about that right now. But instead, it's just like, oh, I don't know. I don't really know if him flying on an ant was a good selling point for the trailer.
It's special effects, man. It's awesome. You've never seen somebody fly on an ant before. Come on.
It was, I think, maybe misguided on their part. But I honestly, I don't know if I'm not going to buy a ticket, but I think I have hopes because I like the director that replaced. I can't even remember because it certainly was. Yeah, it was so long ago, 7 directors ago or whatever.
Wasn't he the director for Zombieland?
Yeah, I like the people they've settled with and been able to find common ground with, and I want it to do well. I just think there's so much coming up we're not sure about.
You know, you pick a iconic character. He is a founding member of the Avengers. He's so important. Yeah, will we see that? Maybe not. Oh, yeah, a little DYK. The name Avengers actually came from his what do I want to say, significant other, the Wasp. She actually named the Avengers way back in the day, so that's a little DYK if you didn't know that. The name of the Avengers came from the Wasp. I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I probably won't go see it. I'm sure Joe, I don't even know if Joe will go see it. I don't know if Nub will go see it or not. One of you guys can report on it. We'll figure out something. I would even pay for you to go instead of paying for myself to go. That's how bad I don't want to go see this.
Go to work something else.
But anyway, quick little shout out, Mr. Joe St. Pierre. How are you, sir? He had just Facebook chatted me. He's like, not really familiar with the storylines you're referring to, Avengers or Ultimate. Not too many people are familiar with the Ultimate, hence that's probably why it's going bye-bye.
Yeah.
But he is still listening. Good to have you on board, Mr. St. Pierre, today.
Yeah, you made these two schlubs look really good on comic book form.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's right. Thank you so much. He did make us look kind of heroic, didn't he? If you guys haven't seen that, the new images, you'll see them up on our marketing materials of myself and Mr. Joe Nub holding that mighty Transformers, Mr. Optimus Prime. But nice little segue going into Optimus Prime. Let's talk a little toy news, sir.
All right.
I know this is Nub's segment, but fuck you, Nub. We're taking it over for today. I've been chatting with Mr. Sains, and I've been purchasing some particular items, god damn you, that are going to probably empty my piggy bank down the road if I get onto another collection spree. If you're not aware that I am really into the DC Direct, if you've seen pictures of our studio here, I have pretty much all the Justice League, Darkseid, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, some of the JLA in the 6-inch direct store, I guess, DC Direct figures. I'm starting to get into this goddamn thing they call Funko Pop. I don't know, the bobbleheads. I'm like, this is nuts. So, but Mike had hit me up the other day and gave me a little image of new releases based around Marvel's Age of Ultron. And with toys, and Jub can back us, or Jub. That's what we should call him now, Jub. Joe Nub, you're Jub now. Jub. There's your Twitter handle, Jub. Toys, mainly Legos, have been giving us little teasers to either particular scenes, characters in an upcoming movie, because they are releasing their toys and their information months before actual movie release, sometimes even before official trailer releases. And your favorite toy, you know, the Funko Pops, released images just the other day of some figures and may have given us some hints to what might be happening or what our characters are going to look like. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. So Age of Ultron, you know, they're starting to have a lot of images leaked of, you know, we know what Vision's going to look like and stuff. And the question has been like, you know, what's Ultron's final form? And I think like this glimpse that Funko Pop has released via a pre-order on GameStop.com, it was just like a really lame duck sort of. They didn't even announce it. It was just kind of on the page, and people were like, "What the hell is this? That's Ultron. That's Vision." So they had all the Avengers except for Black Widow. That right there, I have to call a foul, and everyone is noticing. Where are the ladies? Like, Gamora didn't get any love when it came to Guardians of the Galaxy's promo, and it's the same thing with Black Widow and Avengers, starting with the Funko line, and people are starting to worry. Is that going to be the case with the Marvel Legends? Are you going to not have a Black Widow toy? But getting back to the Funko series, they have everybody. They have Hawkeye in his new, like, kind of like a long leather coat costume. Iron Man in his brand new blue stream armor. His lasers aren't going to be yellow anymore. That's going to be the major change to Iron Man. Spoiler alert, is he's going to have blue streamers, like, you know, jet propulsion now. And it actually looks really luminescent and quite cool. And the only reason I know that is because the Funko Pop for Iron Man and Avengers 2 is actually levitating off of the ground because his propulsors are firing, and it creates a little platform. It's super badass.
That is pretty cool.
Now, here's the real kicker about the GameStop pre-order. Savage Hulk is a GameStop exclusive. And we're talking gray with red eyes and purple pants.
Now, there is rumblings, Hulk smashing on the internet. We're possibly, is that the rumor that we're going to see a gray Hulk?
I'm thinking GameStop spoiled a key plot moment. Yes, it's so weird that they would have done that, but the information has come out that he's going to be an exclusive for the Avengers 2 set. Is that just an extra, or are they actually hinting like something happens in the fight between Iron Man and Hulk, that something happens to him? And is that now going to set up like Red Hulk? Are we going to have Red Hulk and fucking Blue Hulk the way that they're setting up in the comics?
General Ross. Are we going to have General Ross turn into the Red Hulk?
Right.
I'm thinking just the exact opposite. I'm not agreeing with any of these rumors. I think it's just, hey, the Hulk's got two colors. We're going to make a real limited edition gray Hulk, and we're going to make a ton of money off it. I don't really think it has anything to do with the movie.
Honestly, I hope so. I think right now, with Mark Ruffalo and how good he came off in Avengers, they need to focus on building Hulk back up to the point where he can have a solo film and not divert too far before they really cement him as a character.
What are we going to get, Mr. Fix-It after that too? We can just do all Hulk's personalities? What the hell?
Yeah, it's weird. But I think I truly hope you're right that it just turns out to be an exclusive variant. And Funko, you know, has been known to ride the variant train pretty hard. But I can't really knock him for that because their variants look awesome. I can't wait to see what they do with Vision. He looks kind of pinkish with his paint job.
Yeah.
But it's a little more magenta, I'd say.
And he's more gray than green.
Yeah, definitely more gray and magenta. And his like mind's eye thing is a different color. I think that what we're not really able to see right now is that probably is going to look very insane in 3D rendering on the big screen.
On your pick, as we know, as Nub is, I still want to call him Jub now. Jesus. Oh, poor Jubby.
Poor
Jub. The new Star Wars character. He's going to be in the new trailer. You worried about that dumb little android, that little droid? It's going to be Jub running in the desert. Oh, I hope he's not listening. But anyway, sorry, Nub. What was I going to talk about? As far as when toys are released, especially like Marvel Legends, you get you get the one per case. So that is your sought after one. That is the one that toy collectors are waiting at Toys R Us, Walmart, and Target parking lots hours before the truck even shows up, so they can grab that one variant, sell it on eBay for $400.
Yep.
It's got to be the same for Funko. What would be your pick? Do you think that this Gray Hulk is going to be the one, or do you think the images that we saw in the box packaging, do you think it's going to be the Ultron or the Vision? Do you think is going to be the one-offs or the hard ones to find?
It's really hard to call down the line, but this is how I'll break it down from a Funko standpoint. Last year, the one that turned out to be their biggest hit was Flocked Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy. Flocked meaning he actually has like fur. He's felt.
Right.
And it's not like a vinyl plastic toy. It's vinyl plastic coated in felt fur. And that was a huge, huge hit. And, you know, retail price for a Funko Pop is anywhere at Barnes & Noble, you know, on sale, $8. They're the only ones that do that. Or Hot Topic, which most everybody in this country has the $12.50, $15 if it's a Kamikaze exclusive.
Right.
And I think the biggest one in this batch, if you ask me, is probably going to be Ultron, just because he looks so awesome, and that it really is going to set up just an endless stream of variants. Like there's going to be the Ultron. There's going to be the Blue Eyes Ultron. Probably, if I had to guess, a Gemini Collectibles metallic variant, which they're very well known for. Shout out to Southern Pennsylvania's Gemini Collectibles. Their metallic Green Arrow Funko Pop is the highest selling Funko Pop on the market right now for a current estimated value of, I think, $375.
Holy crap.
It's insane. And that's not even that. We're just talking about regular on market availability.
Right.
You want to talk about one of 12 Clockwork Orange Funko Pops? Well, now you're talking about $3,500, my friend.
Wow.
Like thousands of dollars. They have crystal jewelry that looks like they're toys.
Bedazzled the Funko Pops.
That's real. They actually have bedazzled, but they're not just bedazzled. They're freaking crystals, like on the New Year's Eve ball that drops and shit. It's crazy. And this company really has pop culture down pat, man, because it's not just Marvel. Like, they're going to have a huge success with Marvel.
Yeah.
They do Pulp Fiction. They do the Universal Monsters, Transformers, Thundercats.
DC.
Dude, DC's Funko Pops, the Riddler, Penguin, some of those sell for anywhere from $30 to $75
Do we have
to
any
$100.
Do we have any He-Man Funko Pops?
Yes, we do have
Okay,
He-Man.
okay,
You have
okay.
He-Man. You got Skeletor is one of the most sought after ones. The San Diego Comic-Con 2012 Disco Skeletor variant is one of my most highly sought after.
Did they have a
ones.
Battle Cat Funko? How does He-Man ride it? How does he
holy
ride his
shit.
How does he ride his Battle Cat?
Dude, okay, you pretty much just invented one that I'm gonna take back to my Funko addict friends. Be like, dude, my friend just thought of the Battle Cat. I'm like, oh,
Why
God.
not? Why
Why
not?
they never had, because they just announced that they're gonna do the Breaking Bad Crystal Ship RV. Why can't we have the Battle Cat?
There you go. There you go. The
Listen
bobblehead.
to DW.
That's right. The bobblehead Bobble Cat.
Yeah, shout out to Reese O'Brien. Listen to DW, Reese.
In other toy news, because if we keep talking about this, my PayPal account's going to go dry. Joe Jubb had put out an article this week. I can't help it, man. I think we just got a new name. He's going to hate us. You know what? It'd be great if he doesn't listen to this, and we're just going to like shock him right when he comes on next week. Put out an article, and you can check a lot of Joe's articles over at Facebook, or it's not Facebook, FanboysInc's.com. Joe's Toy Box. Check him out over there with some great toy articles. He just put one up on this past week, thanks to Viper Skiing. Viper's Kingdom, excuse me. He's an eBay seller, Viper's Kingdom. He just put out images for the release of new Spider-Man Marvel Legends that will be coming in spring 2015, maybe summer. It does not exact. But this line, six-figure wave, consists of classic Daredevil, Anti-Venom, which has a real crappy paint job, I have to say. Spider-Girl.
Everyone is saying that. Everyone's saying that.
Spider-Man 2099. I will be picking that up. And Ultimate Spider-Woman. Saving the best for last, Hasbro is treating us to a new classic Spidey with 3 sets of interchangeable hands, half-mast alternate head, and a slice of New York pie. I see the images here. They look great. I have to say, I'm not a fan of the anti-venom, all in white. He's kind of Spider-Man Future Foundation uniform, where it's all white with the black spider in the front. Not really. I don't like it. I'm also not a fan of the Daredevil one. I don't know if it's just the imagery. His head looks way bigger than it should be. It could be the way the angle of the photograph. I'm not sure, but I have to say the Spider-Man 2099 Spider-Girl look amazing. I will be picking these up. The cool thing about this is that it's going to be a Build-A-Figure, as everything, as you know, in Marvel Legends, you are usually in each wave you get to build a figure out of this, and each figure comes with a torso, a head, an arm, a leg, and so on. And it's going to be the what do I want to say? I want to say the Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, excuse me. That we saw in Ultimates. Yeah, we saw it in
with the big giant flaming sword.
Yes, in the wings. So I'm excited to see that. So if you want to check out those pictures, go over to facebook.com and click on the article New Picks Marvel Legends Infinite Spider-Man Wave. Joe keeps us up to date on a lot of the toy news over there, so check him out. Each week we always put up one or two if there's news coming. I did talk with Mr. Jubb today. He is working on getting Fanboys Inc. represented at Toy Fair this year.
Sweet.
So cross our fingers. We did a lot of con travel with guests and press passes this past year. 8 cons under our belt for a new company. Not so bad. Some great cons. Emerald City, Baltimore, Granite State. I want to say one in Kentucky. We got the Detroit City, Motor City Comic-Con as well. So if we can get in a Toy Fair, that'll be awesome for Joe. He'll have fun with that. Toys are a huge deal. And I mean, and people don't scoff at the pricing. And that's the one thing that gets me. I mean, these toys are for play, but I see that, especially the DC Direct line, the packaging, articulation is great, but it's more for the base for the collector than actual toy play. And you have all ranges. Like I said, you 3 3/4 inch, the Star Wars action figures, all those. I mean, the display and the packaging caters to the collector, and Joe can tell me if I'm wrong, but it's Star Wars toys are for play. I mean, they're not like the DC Directs. They're definitely not a sideshow. They're not Select, Marvel Select. They're big line. I like Select a little bit more than Legends just because sculpting's a little nicer. There's less articulation per se, but it's that nice fine line between a statue and an actual action figure.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more of a mounted thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Toy news. So get on that Funk Popo. Do a Funk Pop. Now, no actual release date yet?
No, they have not released any information as to when to expect it. But if the movie's coming out in May, I would definitely expect a May release date, probably the week before the film or after the film. That's usually how Funko does. Before the film comes out and before the line comes out, you better believe there are going to be some pre-release exclusives that are going to sell for crazy amounts of money. And I would definitely keep a lookout for those. The same thing with the Hobgoblin series. You said it. There's going to be that variant that everybody's going to want a piece of, and it's probably going to be Spider-Man with a piece of pizza, the same way it was Nova for the Guardians of the Galaxy series that nobody could get their whole hands on.
I'm wondering if it's going to be the Spider-Woman in the maroon outfit. I wonder if she might be the one per case.
Well, actually, I'll tell you what, it's probably going to be Spider-Man 2099 because Walgreens has a Funko exclusive deal where it's Punisher, not Scarlet Spider-Man, I don't want to misspeak, Spider-Man, Venom, and Spider-Man 2099, and the case ratio is 4 Punishers, 4 Venoms, and 1 Spider-Man 2099 per case of 9.
Ooh.
So, yeah. So that is something.
And our Walgreens sucks because we still haven't gotten any of the Venom or any of the Star Wars Black, I believe, too. God damn it!
I haven't seen a single white Boba Fett around my area either. Yeah. I think the East Coast really gets crapped on. If you'll excuse me, I actually kind of do want to take the time to kind of call out toy manufacturers and their uneven distribution of variants and quality of access to the East Coast compared to the West Coast. We'd really appreciate a little love, guys.
Yeah, definitely. Why are we always the last ones to get stuff? Just because we don't live on the West Coast.
The damn distribution lines, it doesn't have to run from the West Coast to the East Coast. You know that.
What's that?
Anyway, their distribution lines don't have to run one way all the time. Show us a little love, you guys.
Oh, I got a comment. Ooh, I got a comment here from Mr. Josh Epstein, creator, capuscrusader.org, and co-host Infinite Crossover, which will be coming back strong in 2015. This whole burn your long boxes reaction to any tweaking or resetting of continually is just terrible. The stories are still there. You can pick them up and read them. All a tweak like this does is unchain new writers and fans from decades of stories that have to read to understand where a character is now. It makes life easier for the new generation. I totally disagree. Sorry, it does not make anything easier for the new generation whatsoever. I think it's just pointless. I think it's easy, lazy writing, and a cash grab. I just don't see it. I just don't. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to say it. If the story is great, I will. But I just don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I could see the point, but
I think he's speaking to the thing that I was trying to say, where it's like they're going for a generation like under the one that we think we're even talking to right now. Like they're going for kids like 12 and under.
Well, didn't they just do that with Marvel Now 2 years ago?
And then all new Marvel
Yeah.
Now.
And didn't DC just do that just over 2 years ago with the New 52? Didn't?
Yeah, I think that's where it gets super dicey. I mean, like, if it is just a reset to make things easier for everybody, then in 3 years we can't have a cycle of like 5 mini events and then a convergence, sucking everything back in, rewriting everything again. Like that is just if that's the case, that is the model in which they do business, and they can't call it anything else.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. You've heard it here first. I will be the first one to say I was wrong, and the story was great and it was a good move. But once again, I have yet to see. Granted, this is a company-wide event in as far as comic stories concerned, but all their events have been lackluster. Great marketing, great hoopla, great to get you to buy the book. The ending's all crap.
I really thought AVX was going to be this giant thing. The only thing they really stuck to their guns on was Professor X being dead.
Yeah.
But then they had that cheap fucking cheat where they bring his kid from the future and he looks just like him.
So
yeah, you can't do that.
So that means now, no pun intended. So now Marvel Now, we're going to have Professor X could be alive in this whole new Secret Wars battle world.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll get Wolverine back. They're going to kill Deadpool off in 4 issues from now or whatever. And now that's going to come back. But whatever. I'm not fanboy raging. Don't start telling me and tweeting me that I'm fanboy raging. It's like
a common decency thing. Yeah, it's like you can't call it one thing and have it be another, and then just expect everybody to be like, oh yeah.
It's not that I don't like change. I just don't like the way they're going about this. I just think it's lackluster in getting all our hopes up in great marketing for a lackluster event. Yes, you can change from the past, but you're only as good as your last event, and the last event was crap. I was entertaining until the last book. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Darren said it perfectly well this morning, actually. Darren, the owner of the Comic Depot, just inside Saratoga Springs at 514 Broadway to meet all your fanboy needs. I was down there today picking up issue 141 and 142 of X-Men, first printing. Very nice. I was happy about that. But he said the events are great until the last issue.
Yes.
Original Sin was great till the last issue. Age of Ultron was good because you're anticipating seeing Ultron. You see him in the last issue. Womp womp. I enjoyed it. Joe was very disappointed. I was entertaining. I got it, but it was still kind of lackluster.
Age of Ultron was a blatant setup for the Hunger event that swallowed the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah.
It was a blatant setup for Angela from Neil Gaiman's continuity being introduced to the Marvel Universe. And that's pretty much it. Everything else was just like the Defenders versus the Avengers in an alternate timeline.
And on paper, I can see that you want to push an event to inform your readers why all of a sudden Angela is going to be here or why this. I get it to a point. But when you look at it, all of a sudden you do an event, all of a sudden it spurs 3 books. It did Avengers AI. That was spurred from Age of Ultron. And that only lasted
we can't even really call that an event. That turned out to be just like a mini series or something.
No. I'm saying the event was Age of Ultron. That's an event series. But AI was spawned from that book.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
So there was a couple titles spawned from that. And I get that. That's more money and you're a company and you got to make money. Totally get it. I just don't And I'd rather, if you're going for a cash grab, make the story awesome. You might make more cash.
I honestly I'd rather have like a Beta Ray Bill book.
Oh God, don't get me started on that shit.
You know,
Oh, I'd love a Beta Ray Bill.
Can't we just get like some good comic book stories? God damn it, that's all I want.
I'll take a Beta Ray book. You know, I'm a big Beta Ray Bill fan, so I'd take that. And he's on one of the covers for the Last Wars or the Secret Wars. I saw a cover of him. It was all the covers of the multiple Thors throughout the universes, all the hammers up in the air, and of course, Beta Ray Bill is right there. Well, let's shift over a little bit into movies. I'm going to start off this segment really quick. I have a question here. I posted on Twitter, and we are live tweeting. So if you have any questions you want to tweet us over at Fanboys Inc. on Twitter. It's by the Irish on Fire. Christopher writes. He writes, what comic book based TV series or movie will be the pin that pops the comic book bubble, finally ending all this excess? That's a good question.
It's a good question.
We kind of hinted on that now for a couple of pods past now throughout the year. When is enough? You've heard me probably say, is it too soon? Is it enough? Is there too much? I don't think we're going to reach that bubble yet. We have movies going all the way, Chris, to answer your question, we have movies all the way scheduled till 2020 at this point. For me personally, to pop the bubble, I might have to say it might be Ant-Man. It might be the Ant-Man, because if it doesn't do well, it's going to tarnish, put a little stain on the House of the Mouse, and possibly tarnish how people look at Marvel comic book movies. I could be totally wrong. That's my pick. I think it might be not just necessarily because it's too much and that we've reached the limit. It's the fact of it was lackluster and maybe not worthy of the general audience. It just wasn't a good movie. What do you think, Mike?
I don't know, because I've been asking this same question. Like, okay, putting it in film buff terms, what movie that Marvel produces is going to turn out to be its paint your wagon, its Heaven's Gate, the thing that brings like the studio system just crashing down because it's like people just can't take any more of it. I'm thinking like Inhumans is a really good choice for that, because Guardians of the Galaxy worked, but would the Inhumans really translate? And if they do it on the scale of Avengers and try to play it off as like, yeah, they've been this important the whole time, this has nothing to do with the fact we can't get mutants.
Yeah, right.
Like, that could be a good choice for that. But I think a really good.
Well, then wait a minute, Mike. Now,
choice.
we thought about Guardians of the Galaxy. This could be another sleeper for them.
Yeah, it very well could. And I think a better chance to ruin Marvel with the general population is the continually failing and lackluster TV offerings. I really liked the first 2 hours of Agent Carter. Really did not like the third hour of
I loved it.
I'm so sorry for publishing that rating on your site.
No. When I read it, I'm like, dude, I loved it. I read your review, then I watched the show, and I'm like, I don't have a problem with this. You got to set up, not every story can be explosive and teasers. You got to set up some storyline. So she was doing some investigation.
You get 8 episodes. You might want to use all the real estate you have. You only have 8 episodes.
True. It's still better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Our fans even said so on this award show.
And that's exactly my point. We already have a precedent of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. being like, whoa, this is not very good. And then Agent Carter, the debut was strong. Everybody seemed to like it. And then the third episode, not a lot of giant reception for that one. And I think people are already going, oh, no, is this going to be another one where not a lot happens? And maybe it's a little too cutesy for its own good. Like, let's be real. Peggy Carter in Captain America, the First Avenger, is a badass lady doing badass shit.
Yes.
And in the show, they're like, look at this dumb broad, go file some papers. Oh,
yeah.
Like, what the fuck is happening right now?
And spoilers, he's the first one that gets knocked off. Thank you.
Yeah,
that was the best part of that episode. You got shot. That was awesome.
Yeah. Chris Minsky, R.I.P. You cheating bastard. Yeah, it's like I really think if anything does them in, like, really, like, okay, we've had enough of this. It's going to be their long form stuff. But they have a whole new slate coming up on Netflix that could shut me the fuck up real quick. Because Daredevil looks great. Luke Cage and the Heroes for Hire could be fantastic.
Rumor has it that we might get an R rating out of some of these. Now,
if that's true, I'm fucking on board for the whole thing.
Well, yeah, you can get more F-bombs than what you get here.
Oh my God. Like, if they really open up the Marvel Knights canon, dude, yes. I am so in for another 20 years.
And I'll tell you what, and I'll pull up the pod. I think it was pod 5 or 6. We called it. If this happens, we called it first that that would be their Marvel Knights line, and they're pretty much doing exactly what we kind of stated back 2.5 years ago. Do these on a TV show or in the small screen, wherever they're doing it, and they're doing it in a movie fashion, which will come out April 10th. Will be all 3 episodes at once, or 13 episodes all at once. I like that than putting it out one a week. I like to binge watch. I binge watched Breaking Bad pretty much when the whole entire season was over. I binge watch Entourage. I binge watched this new series, or not new, series out in 2007 called The Carnival. Carnival.
Good.
Out in HBO. I'm into season 2, episode 1. I watch 4 seasons a night. That's 4 hours, 45 minutes at a time. I like that. I don't like waiting week per week. And I think that's going to be a huge success for Netflix and Marvel in themselves. So I guess, Chris, there's your question, or there's your answer, man. We both have a little bit different answers. We kind of focused on Marvel per se. Will it be DC? Maybe if they put out more.
That's a fair answer. I can't answer for DC because, like, they kind of broke themselves with Green Lantern already and had to build back from that.
Here we go, episode 2 in the new year, and we're already saying Green Lantern. We hit it in an award show. Can we mention Green Lantern in every episode for 2015? That is our goal now.
It's a time-honored tradition.
But for his TV shows, we got more TV shows coming. Now Constantine, really quick on some small screen news. Constantine, new low ratings again for their mid-season premiere, and it just hurt me because I did enjoy the show. I'm reading Josh's tweet. I'm sure he's listening to me now as I'm reading his tweet.
Well, okay, as you do that, I will say I didn't even see a single commercial for the mid-season return.
Yeah.
Like, to its credit, Constantine is getting no love from the network. They're not being pushed anymore now that they're kind of on, like, the cusp.
Right.
And I think that's super unfair. And NBC as a network is in trouble because now that Parks and Rec is going off the air, they're not going to have a single comedy show, and they don't have more than one good drama to stand on.
And they have Heroes Reborn coming. They seem to putting their hat back in the ring for superheroes or sci-fi fantasy.
So now that Hayden Panettiere finally is going to have her baby, she can do a show again.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, that one Nashville, turned out to be really good because her and the lady from American Horror Story, what is her name? She's so good.
Yes.
Anyway, Friday Night Lights, she's an amazing actress. They're both really good, and they played massive bitches, and it was fantastic to watch on TV.
I'm excited.
If Hero does it right, if they do it season 1 style, I'm cool with it.
Season 1 and season 3 for me were the best out of those 4.
The writer's strike one was damn near unwatchable.
Well, you can't blame them. I mean, come on, but I'm excited to see Heroes come back. I've been a fan from day one. Nice to see NBC putting it, and they say they're putting themselves in the hero or the superhero ring, but they've been doing stuff, supernatural wise. You had Grimm. I enjoyed Grimm. Grimm is going to be gone after this year.
The Cape, you guys, we all.
Oh my God, the Cape! Holy crap! I did not like that show whatsoever. Don't say we all like the Cape.
It was awful. It was terrible.
What was
David?
What was the other one that I liked? Revolution. Who? The star of the Cape was one of the badasses in the Revolution. I liked that show, and that got canceled. I really liked that. It was the Walking Dead without zombies kind of thing, world apocalyptic bullshit. But I did enjoy it. The lead male was the father of what's her name in Twilight. I can't remember the actor's name, but I thought he did well in that, and I thought that show was getting received quite well.
Anything NBC does that's halfway interesting gets either a Friday time slot or no love.
I was really hoping Constantine with the earlier time slot would do well. But don't fret, guys. I strongly feel there's a lot of support. No, online petitions don't work. News alert, spoiler.
Yeah,
I shouldn't say that because there's been 1 or 2 out of thousands that have actually worked. I shouldn't say that.
Spoiler alert for The Walking Dead. Petitions don't work.
Yeah, right. Bring back dead characters. Sure, no problem. Just ruin the whole theme of the show and the credibility of killing people off.
Does not exist, everyone. Let's just bow to the whims of the braying and complaining public.
I want a petition to end the petitions that are petitioned online. Can we do that?
Yes.
And if the success of those petitions work, I know the success of my petition will not. So there you go. But no, seriously, NBC owns Sci-Fi. So could we see possibly season 2 if they have done pre-production? We don't know if that's confirmed yet. It's not a rumor we're starting. I don't know if it has started. I have yet not seen anything. It was greenlit for season 2 about a month ago. Now, because of these new ratings, low ratings, it's in question again. Obviously, this is still rumor, nothing 100% confirmed. Could go to Sci-Fi. It might find a home on Sci-Fi. I mean, yes, every day the time slots are going to be hard to fill. I mean, you have on Monday, you have Tuesday, you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Obviously, Constantine has on a Friday time slot. But could you do Sci-Fi on a Saturday? Is the viewing habits of the 3 major network viewers different than your cable viewing habits? Maybe a Saturday at 8 o'clock on Sci-Fi would do better than Saturday on a network. Back in the day, Friday, Saturday nights, people are out doing things. Maybe that's not necessarily true with this generation. Maybe they're just now viewing the networks. Who knows? I don't know the demographics or the
habits of
habits. Correct. Yeah. So, we know that, Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football's lost to The Walking Dead. Monday Night Football has been in jeopardy with certain episodes, of TV shows. Maybe having Constantine on with another TV show may do that. Right now, Agent Carter's going to go up against The Flash and vice versa. So, that's a hard, what do you do? If I don't have a DVR, shit, what do I do? Do I watch The Flash or do I watch Agent Carter? Do I watch Agent Carter? Do I watch The Flash? So it is happening. So we might see it on Sci-Fi. Don't lose hope yet. I like this past episode. I thought it was good. I think what needs to happen is the teasing of other characters in DC, i.e. Dr. Fate, Swamp Thing. They need to show up. I think you put Doc Fate in there, bam, you're gonna get ratings if it's done right. That could boost your ratings. They need more cameos. They need not just these little fanboy teasers. We actually now, okay, we've seen it. Yes, it is only half of the first season. Give us something to sink our teeth into. Flash does it well. Arrow does it well. Yes, I'm saying it. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has done it well for what they do. Constantine needs to do that now. We need to see a prominent character in the show to boost ratings. Throw out the big guns.
The rising darkness. There's a rising darkness coming.
Oh my God, I hate that.
How many times can we hear there's a rising darkness, yes. You guys?
Yes, it sounds like a really bad version of a Doctor Who villain. Oh, for some reason, every time he says that, I think of Doctor Who, and I'm a Whovian, but it's just like it's cheap. Why is it the rising darkness? Whatever. But yeah. As we were talking TV and Marvel, or TV and movies, I should say. Talking with Mr. Sainz off pod, let's talk just briefly about some Oscar nominees. I want to start. I don't have the list right up in front of me. Hint, hint, Sainz. But Big Hero 6, one of the nominees for Best Animated Feature going up. How to Train a Dragon 2 and a couple other ones. That's cool. I think that's cool first step as far as a superhero movie is concerned. Granted, it is one of the first Disney animated features that is taking a Marvel property. Sad to say, I think How to Train a Dragon 2 is going to win.
It won at the Golden Globes, and I think it's going to win at the Oscars. I'm not necessarily a champion of the How to Train Your Dragon movie franchise, but it has an established lore to pull from, and I think kids just like seeing people ride on dragons, and I can't blame them. I mean, it's a good setup. And Big Hero 6, like, I think it was a great example of, like, you can't necessarily pull from, you know, the deep, dark recesses of Marvel's B roster and have it always be a hit. It'll make its money back because everything makes its money back once it hits international now. India has over 1 billion people, and so does China. You're going to get some viewers in the seats.
Well, we've noticed, and it's been stated, you can see the figures online. Not that everything you read online is true, isn't it? Oh, wait a minute. It's true, isn't it? Everything you read online is true, right? Everything you hear in our podcast is true. Oh, shit. No, don't say that. That Spider-Man, last Spider-Man movie was, and Days of Future Past were good domestically, but the numbers that saved them were international. The international numbers were skyrocketing. Huge. So it's the international that's keeping these studios afloat, which goes back to the question that maybe Chris was from Twitter was telling us or asking us, could we already start seeing the meh blah blah of general audiences already kind of getting tired of the movies? Or is it that we're tired of seeing Spider-Man again? Are we tired of seeing X-Men again? Are we tired of seeing Transformers again? We want fresh blood. We want fresh heroes.
I think yes. I definitely think the answer is going to start shaping up to be yes. Like, I think that's exactly why X-Men is recasting. They see the writing on the wall.
But for 25 years, this franchise has been going, and we have to say they are the only franchise that have kept the same actors. Yeah. I enjoy that. I like that. It's like coming back home. You're comfortable with these characters.
It's a good point.
You know,
and I mean, like, okay, and just to get back to the Oscars, we're starting to see these movies finally get love in the form of Oscar nominations. Like, like from the bottom of the categories, like not even writing, we're talking visual effects. There are 3 comic book movies nominated: Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, and X-Men: Days of Future Past are all nominated for Best Visual Effects.
Who else is in that nomination?
Interstellar and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which I think it's
that's a tough one. It's going to go to Dawn.
I think so too. Yeah. Andy Serkis fucking killed it.
We should do our own podcast who we're already going to pick for the Oscar winners. We should do that and then tally it up. We should do a Fanboys Inc. Oscars award show and just pick we'll go through the nominees and pick the winners.
I'm into it, man.
Yeah, Dawn, nothing against any of the nominees, but Dawn, holy crap, yes.
Such a powerhouse in visual effects. I mean, my God. And then you're obviously going to have, sound editing, sound mixing. They're going to be in the mix there somewhere. At least I think they are. But
we're still missing the boat. We're getting some Oscar love. Best movie, how about best lead in a drama? How about best supporting? We're not getting any of that. Our culture's not getting any of that love yet. And it's funny that it doesn't matter how much the movie brings. Obviously, I know it's not based on sales, but what a kick in the nuts. You're one of the highest grossing movies and you don't even get on the list.
Yeah, and what's even funnier, on the flip side of that, Birdman is one of the lowest grossing movies.
And it's on the list.
But it's also like high art. I mean,
it's not a superhero movie. It's a movie about a superhero playing a superhero in a superhero movie.
Yeah, it's almost, I mean, there's a theory out there right now that it's a psychotic break in the form of a film. For Michael Keaton's character. I mean, it's called Birdman, but it's really about human nature and the ego and coming back and showing people that they were fucking wrong and like all that craziness that comes with being an actor. Like, I think that was really more of an actor's film, and I think that's why it's doing so well with Hollywood. People love that shit. But you're right, man. To have Captain America and Guardians of the Galaxy get snubbed for Best Picture, one of the two has to be on there, if you ask me, because Captain America is the best action movie of last year, and if Bourne Supremacy can get love, so can goddamn Marvel. But I think that is a huge problem with Hollywood. There's no categories for comedies, and there's no categories for comic book movies, and those two things deserve categories.
Do
The
you
same way
think-
stuntmen do.
Right. Do you think because of the I'm pleasantly interrupted. Joe St. Pierre, Planet of the Apes rules. Yeah. Well, so there you got another Oscar vote there, buddy. But with the onset of so many comic book movies coming out, do you think that the Academy would be forced to put in a category?
Not necessarily forced to put in a
True, because
category.
but to take them in consideration. Granted, yes, there have been comedies for years. You can argue that case. Well, why don't they do comedies? But this is such a huge trend and so huge in the market. Maybe they consider it's going to be a fad and it'll be gone in 5 years.
I think it's more of that. I think it's sort of a condescending thing. Like, there's a reason we don't have a category.
It's still
for
funny
them.
books. We're still getting the, hey, you're reading funny books, young man.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the same reason. I mean, musicals, comedies, and dramas all have to fight amongst each other in the Oscars. And I think the Golden Globes actually gets it right where they separate them.
I agree.
And it deserves the treatment because, I mean, it's like we're going to be talking about 10 to 30 comic book movies a year once DC and Marvel get their shit together and are firing on all cylinders.
And Oscars, I see them snubbing their nose because now you obviously a very successful MTV Movie Awards, which obviously caters to our generation and to, best punch, best fight scene, best comic book movie, best action. You got Spike's. The Spike Channel's Movie Awards. Now that one's really cool. They break it down with some really cool, unique categories, which I think is awesome. So the Oscars are like, we're too hoity-toity and having our dresses and bow ties. We're not going to give these people their just due. I really think
you're right because the only categories we have any comic book movies nominated for the Oscars are Best Visual Effects and makeup and hairstyling, which is Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're up against Foxcatcher and Grand Budapest Hotel. So in my personal opinion, I think we have a shoo-in winner for Guardians of the Galaxy in that category.
We'll probably win something like Best Score, which I shouldn't shake a stick at because I shouldn't laugh at because that's very important.
I was just about to say
that makes a movie. That makes or break a movie. Music makes or breaks a movie by far.
Hell yes, it does. And I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3 times now, and it's not just the original soundtrack, the songs they selected, the score that the guy who actually made the soundtrack, that shit is top-notch stuff. And it's really rare that a comic book movie has its own really competent theme now, especially with all that Hans Zimmer style, like Dark Knight, like bombastic, just like
right.
Wah. It's not even music; it's just noises.
Now we thought we made a step. Didn't Heath Ledger win an Oscar?
Yeah, he won it posthumously though. Like,
do you think? No offense, and R.I.P. Thanks, St. Pierre. Do you think? I'm gonna guess. If he was alive, lived? Yeah.
It's a really good question, and if you go back and look at that category, I don't think he would have.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure wasn't that the same year as No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood and all them?
I think so. I believe so.
2007, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
So we're talking.
Quote me for that.
Okay. The Joker is a fantastic performance, and I don't want to take anything away from his legacy. I just think there is a little bit of romanticism involved because, he died in production. And it's like the James Dean, Jimi Hendrix effect. People want to romanticize him. But I think in the long run, it has caused a lot of problems because the Joker is one of the things DC needs to be able to tap into immediately.
Right. I agree. So you think it wasn't... This is going to be worded wrong. It wasn't a pity award. It was just... a roundabout way in honor of Heath Ledger.
Yeah, I think it was because the
nothing to take away from his performance, but considering the past of the Oscars and the way the Academy does things, he would have never won.
Another example of that is Denzel Washington in Training Day. Everybody was crowning him as the best actor of that year, and there were a couple other performances. If you just go over that list of nominees, he should have won, and it was more of like we're acknowledging that Denzel should have won for Malcolm X 15 years ago.
Right.
We're acknowledging that, actors who haven't gotten a lot of love, who've been nominated a lot, or maybe never been nominated and should have been, there are kind of like consolation awards every now and then. I mean, look at the guy from Life is Beautiful. That's one of my favorite examples. This Italian foreign film movie about the Holocaust. This clown of a lead actor went up against Nick Nolte in his movie Affliction. And this is Nick Nolte's freaking opus about like a corrupt cop who does some really fucked up stuff in the woods of a small town, and he should have won. It's an amazing performance. And then this little Italian dude wins. And it's just like, in your face, we made a kitschy movie that's, of course it's gonna win because it's a Holocaust movie, and it's the Oscars, and they always reward the period piece films, and he jumped right over him. And it's like who am I thinking of? The industry, they had no right giving that guy the award, but it's like it's sort of like these awards take momentum sometimes, even when they have no right to take momentum. It's like, well, I guess this is the buzz for this year. And that's, I think, one of my biggest problems with the Oscars. Like, they crown shit before the field of competition even settles. You know, and I think with tying back into comic book movies, dude, there's a lot of moments in the comic book movies from this year that beat out other films. Like, in editing, Captain America should be in there.
Oh, yeah.
Film editing, that movie's near flawless.
Yeah. Do they obviously have stunt coordination or choreography, fight for choreography? They were, I mean, Captain America, that was one of the best opening scenes, and not only opening scenes, but one of the best fighting scenes I've seen, action scenes I've seen ever.
Yeah, period.
Yeah.
It's, dude, Nick Fury getting taken in the middle of the street in DC, fucking amazing adrenaline rush.
Taken? You mean Liam Neeson took Nick? What? Liam? What?
Like, I almost forgot it was a Marvel movie.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you almost forget, and it's like, oh right, it's a bunch of guys playing superheroes. It's not Jason Bourne. It's not just a traditional action movie,
right?
And it's gonna come a time when like we either get our props or we don't, as far as these films go, because they're getting just as good as any traditional film.
Well, it can say, you know, it's new to the genre. I mean, granted, we've been doing superhero movies for years, but it's been in the mainstream light, what do we want to say, the last 10 years or so. So it's the same fight that comic books had to fight back in the day. They were funny books. Stan Lee will keep telling you, he, you know, didn't tell everybody he wrote books. He didn't tell you he wrote funny books. It took years and years and years for it to become accepted as a legit writing job, or it was a legit source for reading. And we still get a little bit of it now. You know, comic books, they still get the funny book thing, as I, you know, jokingly said a little while ago. Could be the same thing. We could still see this. If this is the genre that's going to stay with us, as long as there are comic book stories and characters are there, we could get that superhero movie every year, if not for a year, as they're coming out to be.
My money, if we're ever going to get any kind of real Oscar love, is Sandman. Joseph Gordon-Levitt has a lot of pressure on his young shoulders to get that movie right, because it deserves awards as a comic book. And if you're going to make the movie, it better be on the same level.
Now, before we move into comics, Watchmen, did that get any nominations, I should say?
If it did, we're talking film editing.
Okay.
Maybe cinematography.
Okay.
Maybe adapted screenplay, but I doubt it.
Okay.
Because that's something
that would for me would be right up there in the lines of Sandman. It's not your traditional superhero movie. It's kind of, I don't want to say noir, but it I don't know how to explain it, but it's not your traditional, you know, punch 'em, shoot 'em, flying around kind of cape wearing superhero. Even though they wore capes, it was treated differently. So I would possibly believe that maybe that would have gotten some nominations.
Yeah, and it's I think what separates books like Watchmen and Sandman is it's like high art. Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore, they were both guys that they push the medium as far as it'll go. As far as about Grant Morrison and stopping there, because you don't want to lose everybody.
Right.
I love you, Grant. I love you, Grant.
I don't want any of his movies to come to fruition. You know how many movies that would have to be? It'd take a lot of movies to tell one movie.
How could you make the Invincibles or the Invisibles into a movie? You can't make the Invisibles. Or Doom Patrol. You can't make Doom Patrol into a movie.
Multiversity 6 parts. It's not a trilogy. It's a, oh my God, that would be, maybe it would be. Maybe it'd be a good idea. I don't know. It'd be weird. I don't know if I could see that.
If we
Talk
don't
about
get
confusing the general audience.
yeah, but on a timeline, man, I'm thinking like within the next 3 years, I want to start seeing like best supporting actor, actresses nods, like really something quality to be like, look, that's just as good as any art house movie that played in 11 theaters across the country.
So on that note, we're gonna that was movie, TV talk, and Oscar talk. We're gonna move into comics as we're winding down this episode of IncCast, brought to you by Audible.com. Over 150,000 titles to choose from. There's a book for everyone, someone. There's got to be a book for you. You know, do you like reading? Well, I know you do. And do you like listening? I'm sure you do that too, obviously, because you're listening to this podcast. Audible.com is perfect for you as they merge the two worlds together. Your favorite comedy, movie adaptation books, little books for children. Get them started. Have them in the car. Great place to listen to them. You can listen to them on the beach, in the park, on your Android phone, iPhone, tablet. You listen anywhere. And right now, if you go over to audibletrial.com/IncCast and sign up to get a credit for 1 free book of your choice. That's right, 1 free download of a book of your choice with over 150,000 titles to choose from. We bring it up a few times. Great Doctor Who books, great Star Wars titles to choose from. So go over to audibletrial.com/IncCast to sign up to get your credit for 1 free download. So yes, thank you so much for audible.com being our sponsor for today's show. New comics. It is New Comic Book Day. That's right. It is Happy Hump Day. Happy Fanboy Inc. IncCast and New Comic Book Day. Today, we were not here last week as we had the award show. Star Wars #1. It came out last week and is now officially in 3rd print. Over 1 million copies being distributed, sold, however you want to mark it down. Yes, I know the crowd's going to go nuts. I just picked up Star Wars #1 today just because last week was so busy. Thick book. I haven't read it yet, but just picking it up, it was a little bit heavier than most. So interesting to see that. I know that our fellow FBI member, Mr. Josh Epstein, was able to chat briefly with Jason Aaron. Sadly, thanks to technical difficulties, that did not come to an online representation, but just to get a chance to talk with the man, I thought was amazing. So awesome that Josh got to do that. I'm sure he enjoyed himself quite a bit. But that book is going nuts right now. What we say, 120 variants. Think that's pretty crazy, but they're selling. And it's good to see that Marvel did bring that back from, I shouldn't say bring back, but took back from Dark Horse. But it was good to see a good fan reception to Star Wars #1, and that came out last week. You can check out a review by Mr. Jeff Ayers over on FanboysInc's.com if you haven't yet, or want to know a little bit more if you haven't been able to pick it up in 3rd printing. But for this week, some titles that came out. Justice League #38, Johns, Fabok, and Anderson. On the cover, Batman with superpowers. Interesting concept. And what are his new strange powers? And will he need kryptonite to actually kick Superman's butt now? Now I think he could probably do it on his own. We'll find out in that issue. I'm loving the what do I want to call it? The Amazovirus and the storyline with Lex Luthor once again skirting the line of being a hero, even though he's on the Justice League. Spider-Verse, Amazing Spider-Man #13 with Mr. Slott, Part 5. Sorry, everybody, if you're not liking this title, I don't know why. This is my #2 book storyline. Amazing Spider-Man as a story, as a whole, as a line, is my #2 favorite book out of my pull list each week. They're doing a great job with this. I was really concerned about having, we've had the Clone Wars, we've had all these mishaps with Spider-Man and I'm going to say it, crappy stories. What is Slott doing with this is amazing. Bringing all these characters together, fighting the Inheritors. This is an awesome book. Great storyline. I love the way Dan Slott's doing this. I'm going to ruin everybody's name and just merge them. They're dots. It's going to be Dlot and Jub. That's what it's going to be. Dlot and Jub. Jub. Yes, it's going to be Slan. We're just going to call him Slan. But Slott's doing a great job with that. Pick this up. If you haven't yet, you can get it over in Comixology for digital. If you can't get some of the past issues, but once again, I'm enjoying this. I mean, how can you not? It's got Spider Ham. Who doesn't like Spider Ham? Especially with eggs on the side, little white toast. All new X-Men number 35, Bendis, with another Spider-Man. That's right, Spider-Man 2099 has been joining up the team, merging past, new, present X-Men together. I'm enjoying this title as well. All new Ghost Rider, which was our winner for Best New Comic for 2014, picked by you, the fans. Number 10 by Smith and Scott. We talked about the art chores changing. I got to say, now that I'm looking at it, Mike, as you and I discussed this, wow, this is really almost like a copycat. And I don't want to say copycat because that's a negative term. But what a transition! If you liked, name's escaping me.
Tradd Moore.
Yes, thank you, Tradd Moore. How could I not? We met him at Baltimore. If you love Tradd Moore, what a huge, smooth transition this has been for me. Now that I'm really looking at this issue, I'm like, there are some little nuances, some differences, but wow, holy crap, what a transition.
Yeah, and it's really a credit to the new art team to be able to not just mimic the artist that founded the character design in Tradd Moore, but to be able to put your own little flourishes on it in a way where it's like, yeah, it's similar, but it's clearly a different person, a la, Dave Stewart or Duncan Fegredo taking on a Mike Mignola property for Hellboy, or anyone else who has to carry on something that is, Marvel put a lot of time into establishing this new character design, and then Tradd got moved off of the project rather quickly. So it has to adhere to that look. And that's a lot of credit to them, because who knows what their genuine style is really like.
True. I'm enjoying it. If you guys haven't, yes, all new Ghost Rider. It's not a cheap imitation. He's not an imitation at all. He is not the spirit of vengeance that we all know, whether it's a Danny Ketch or Johnny Blaze. As you see, if you are reading or want to know, in the two previous issues, the original Ghost Rider shows up and is trying to figure out what's going on with this new supposed spirit of vengeance. He will be in the title ongoing for a while to figure out what the mystery is and how this is going to affect him and others around him. I'm enjoying it. It was really cool to see Ghost Rider versus Ghost Rider. I'm enjoying it. I was the first one. If you listen to Pods Past, I was the first one to bash the hell out of this book because of my childhood experiences. And I think that has a lot to do with maybe some of the things, the way we see comics now and the changes. We grab on to our child memories, and what we thought was great then might not necessarily work now, but we feel very passionate about that. And when I first read Ghost Rider, obviously it was Johnny Blaze. I fell in love with the Easy Rider feel, the motorcycle, the freedom. Putting him in a car in LA was really almost too stereotypical. He's a gang, kid trying to fight away from gangs and trying to be the good kid. It's cool. I get it. It seemed a little over the top stereotypical to use that, but comics do mirror real life, and real life does mirror some of the stuff that happens in comics. Hence, Infinite Crossover was born. Nice segue. You like that? But I am enjoying that title quite a bit. Now on to, oh boy, in 4 months, times runs out. Secret Wars, Avengers 40, Hickman. I don't know what to say. I am enjoying these. Thanos on the cover. It took me a while to get through with some of the Hickman's writing. Some of it was drawn out. We wanted conclusions of what's going on with this. Title of this is We the Three Kings. So a lot of Illuminati problems going on here. Obviously, we know that the Illuminati decided to brainwash Captain America. Now Captain America knows what the hell's going on. Captain America now is a blue hair. Things are coming to an end, obviously, no pun intended. It's funny, in the last few months, now that we're starting to see the ending or a finalization, the stories got better. I don't know if that means that Secret Wars is going to be good. I'm still hemming and hawing, and I just don't necessarily feel great about that, but the stories are getting a lot better in this. And then sadly, as the Avengers as we know it will be over. And finally, my last pick for the last my pull list for the last 2 weeks, Avengers 34.2, Humphreys and Bengal. With one of my favorite characters, and you can laugh all you want. I love Starbrand, and I loved the new universe, and I know Jim Shooter's attempt failed very badly, to say the least. But But I love Starbrand, and he's right on the cover, and bringing some of those characters back to this universe I thought was kind of cool. And once again, this is all going to be tying in with the Secret Wars as well as we come to the end in the spring of 2015. As far as indie books, sir, anything particular on your pull list this week?
Yeah, I ended up with 6 books, and out of the 6, I have 4 indie books. 1 all new X-Men and 1 Rocket Raccoon. So I couldn't pass those up. And they're both doing very well. But as far as the indie front goes, man, we got some interesting offerings this week. We have a 3rd issue of a book called Tooth and Claw.
I'm hearing a lot of big things about this book.
Tooth and Claw. Okay, so it's like fantasy story, but with animals, similar to Mice Templar, but not. It's like, you know, if you were a fan of Redwall, things like that growing up with the folklore, but with animals, but like it has its own very detailed, established, you know, lore, like any fantasy story will. But it's also, it's crazy because they have like common nomenclature, like they say things like back the fuck off to each other, but they're, you know, like wizards and boars with swords and shit.
Very cool.
And it's I can't really explain it. It's just, it's so confident in its existence. And like, I think a lot of fantasy comic books struggle to establish a reality fast enough for a readership to really latch on, because fantasy generally has a prose format. You know what I mean? George R.R. Martin, Tolkien, they take forever to get to their rhythm, you know, and I don't think comic book readers have that same kind of patience. And I think Tooth and Claw has done a good job of establishing itself. Moving on is another fantasy book that we're kind of eyeing right now here. It's called Reyn, spelled R-E-Y-N. It's by Kel Simons and Nathan Stockman. It's on Image Comics, and it's first issue that seemingly jumps right into the middle of a separate existing fantasy world of monsters and giant spiders that bore out of the ground. And there's this league of warriors who for centuries have defended a sovereign land. And that's pretty much all I really know about the first issue until I read the thing. But I'm really interested in it because I know Kel Simons and Matthew Reynolds last year pretty much dominated with The Mercenary Sea, which it just so happens to have a full-page ad on the back of Reyn #1. Coming up down the pipeline also, let's see what we have. Oh, my #1 pick from 2014, The Wicked and Divine, is back, again with 2 covers, one with a full facial profile of one of the characters and the other variant cover of more of a splash page. I went with the splash page because it looks like some kind of astronaut spewing out liquid women out of his hands. So it's pretty freaking awesome. I went with that cover. I'm really not going to detail any of the story other than the cliffhanger that we were left with in the first story arc. Things are escalating, and the size of the story is getting Hickman-esque in its scale. Okay. And the microscope is starting to zoom out a little bit, and I really like when stories are comfortable enough to really start to zoom out and not focus on that one central story we were also hooked on, but really go, no, let's establish the world a little bit more.
Oh, very cool.
But my #1 pick this week is a 2nd issue of a book from a creative team that was responsible for BPRD. That's the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense. That's the Mike Mignola established Hellboy universe, and the captain of the BPRD ship for the last nearly 10, 15 years has been John Arcudi. John Arcudi has gone to be a solo artist working for Image Comics, still working with James Herron and Dave Stewart from Hellboy, essentially sniping that creative team and moving over to Image to make a book called Rumble. Rumble is a book that defies explanation. It is a great example of why I was so excited for Dave Stewart to finally be able to do his own thing, because Hellboy is really one of those comic books that if you go back, it does not care to delve too hard into details of the established reality. Everything kind of just is. And Hellboy doesn't want an explanation. He just wants to punch that monster in the face. He doesn't want details. And Rumble is very, very, very similar.
Oh, cool.
It kind of just shows up, and it's about a killer scarecrow that wields a mythical sword in our reality, and he's kind of following along this young bartender guy that was at the bar that the scarecrow tore up, and there's all these demons that killed everybody at the bar, and that's all we really know. And now the second issue is sort of explaining what the hell is actually going on, and why is this cloaked ring wraith looking guy with a giant sword killing multi-headed snake fire creatures and shit. Like, it's really off the wall, almost like drug trip-esque crazy. And it's like, what is it? It's, remember in the first Transformers how the Shia LaBeouf storyline was like, there's this crazy thing that's following me, but I have to keep that crazy thing a secret from my parents.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of like that kind of shtick.
Okay.
But totally well done, because it's this murderous hooded figure, and he's like, oh my god, I gotta keep, why does this keep following me? And it's like, I'm really, really, really a fan of avant-garde storytelling, and this is about as out there as a comic book is going to get right now.
Awesome.
Rumble #2.
Is that your official pick of the week?
That is my official pick of the week. Someone could get the word to John Arcudi. I said that, and Dave Stewart too.
Nice.
I would really appreciate it, because I've been a fan of them since I was since before I had hair on my face, you guys.
I'm gonna leave that one alone. Okay. Since we moved right into this week's new comics, we went right into picks. What a nice transition that was, Mr. Saints. My pick for this week is gonna be issues the story 141, 142, Days of Future Past. Not necessarily picking up the single issues, which you can. Price range is anywhere from 30 to hundreds by far, depending on your condition and what you want to get. But you can get it on your digital apps, Comixology. You can get it in trade. Trades are very inexpensive. $10, $15, $20 for the trade to get both books. If you are a fan of the movie and you want a little bit more where the source material came from, check this storyline out. This one of the stories that I will always remember as a kid. That and the death of Jean Grey, still in the top 5 classic stories for me. And like I said, I just picked up the floppies today from the Comic Depot. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr. Chris the Pusher, for doing that for me. That was awesome. But yeah, pick up that storyline if you want to familiarize yourself with the source material from Days of Future Past. Yes, it's going to be different. Characters are different. Storylines a little bit different, but awesome storyline. Still one of the classics. Still holds up today. Once again, it's a true good storyline when you can go back and read that book, and that story still holds true to what you have experienced today. Same thing with Death of Jean Grey, the first time she died.
It's the Days of Future Past cover, arguably the most iconic X-Men cover.
I think it's the most imitated, parodied cover to date right now.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, as an X-Men fan, I think the most iconic one is the first issue with you're looking for Magneto's perspective, and the X-Men are coming at him, and it's Beast and Iceman and Angel. But for everyone who's really kind of in it now, you say, what's the most famous X-Men cover? Everybody sees Wolverine guarding a mutant with the eliminated faces in the background of all these dead mutants. That's a hell of an acquisition.
Guarding Kitty
Pride. Jealous.
Yes, guarding Kitty Pride he was.
Yeah, I'm very jealous of that acquisition.
Well, thank you. I guess. I'm not sure if I should take that as a compliment.
You hear the hatred in my voice.
I'm not shipping you that toy. Wow, that Funk Pompo is $40. What, Saints? But anyway, before we go, Mr. Saints, please, as you have talked in the toy segment, and we had talked about how you're going to be taking all my money, tell everybody where they can go to pick up some of your awesome toys that you have online.
Well, as of tonight, will be relaunching my eBay store, and you can find it. I will post links on my social media on Twitter at the Mike Sains on Twitter. You can find me there. I'll be posting links, and I have a whole new batch of Funko Pop stuff, and I'm thinking I might put some of my Guardians of the Galaxy Marvel Legend figures on there, but I don't know if I can let go of Rocket Raccoon. I mean,
I don't know, man.
it's just too awesome, man. I don't, maybe Gamora, but
well, you should put them up to save up money for the life-size Rocket Raccoon.
I'm actually trying to save up for the Hot Toys Mike Mignola Hellboy, rendered from the digital files of the artwork and not Ron Perlman from the movies.
Ooh.
It looks absolutely like I'd put that shit in a museum, Indiana Jones time.
Very nice, very cool. Before we go though, too, I want to say, you know, we were just talking to this sidebar. I'm ADD in today. Iconic covers. We talked about that really quick. I'd love to hear what you guys think is your most favorite or your favorite cover in any age of comics. Tweet us over at Fanboys Inc. Tell us the issue number, or send us a twit pic and tell us what your favorite cover is, or if you agree that 141 is one of the most iconic. Tell us what you think over there. I'd love to see your picks and what you think makes a great cover. It doesn't even have to be a great story. I have some of the covers that I enjoy. Stories were crap, but you know,
yeah, it's so
true. But you know what? A great cover almost guarantees a sale. I mean, for me anyway, artistically, I'll pick it up. I might flip through it if the interior art's good. But what draws you to a book? First time buyer of a book, the cover. So if the cover is intriguing and looks cool, you might get. It's pretty much you're going to guarantee a sale. So I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking over there. Send us your twit pics or a link to what you think your most iconic or your personal favorite cover is. On that note, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of IncCast. Sorry that Jub was not around for us at this episode, but Jub will be back next week. Yes, and you can follow us over at facebook.com/Fanboys Inc. You can follow us also on Twitter at Fanboys Inc. You want to read some awesome articles. You want some cool videos. You want some nudes. You want some awesome podcasts to go back to and listen to. Well, there's one spot only for you. FanboysInc.com. We got an awesome staff. They are pumping out some serious shit lately. Love it all. Like I said in the award show, couldn't be here without them. Thank you so much for everybody that's involved. We will list the names and get some of them on future episodes, so you can actually find out what's going on behind the scenes with Jason Pickup, Mucka, Mr. Josh Epstein. You will be hearing him more. I'm not going to say. Let's just tease 2015. We'll have a couple more podcasts. Yes, they are in the works and being done, but you will hear Mr. Josh Epstein's majestic voice on Infinite Crossover coming soon on a very big topic that we're doing research on. Yes, I am actually doing research for the first time. Can you believe it? On Infinite Crossover. But the entire staff, obviously, Mr. Mike Sains, you guys are doing a great job over there. Reviews, articles, you guys are awesome. I just want to thank you again for everything you guys have done. Every Monday, check out Random Shit, Random Guy, Mr. Philip Broyles. Man's doing some great stuff over there at his home shop, Max Toys and Games in Kentucky. Check him out over there. Obviously, every Wednesday is us, IncCast. Every Thursday will be Infinite Crossover once again. And check out a couple more slots. We'll be filling up soon to get your nerdy pop culture weekly fun. I think that's pretty much it, Mr. Sains. What are you going to be doing after this?
After this, I might be asking a few questions for an interview on a comic book creative team, but that has yet to be seen how that's going to play out. Look for it in the next couple of days on Capeless Crusader, maybe. Right. We should also keep a lookout for some reviews from the review team this week for any indie books that might be out. And on Fanboys Inc., next Tuesday, you should keep a lookout for my review of Agent Carter on Wednesday or Thursday. I review that show every week for FanboysInc.com.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Well, on that note, Mr. Sains, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Peace.